Hello, everyone, and happy Victober. I thought I'd just pop on and do a hopefully quick Victober catch up. And also, I want to just talk about some of my favorite Victorian writers and one book from each of them that I really enjoy. First of all, how's your Victober going? And are you enjoying what you're reading? Right now, I'm reading two books. I'm doing Wuthering Heights, which is a part of a read along that Kate Howe and others are doing. And I've got to say, this is the second time I'm reading it. And I have often found that rereading a Victorian novel that I didn't like at the first time, I often enjoy it the second time around. And that's certainly been the case for this book. It could be partly of how I'm reading it. I'm taking it a lot slower than I did the first time I read it. Also, I have a better understanding of how to view the book, not as some kind of a beautiful romance story, but one of, I think, as others have said, it's a story of revenge and, what happens when two awful people fall in love. And with that understanding, I am definitely getting a better read from it this time around. I'm also been listening to it read to me by on the Fireside Reading channel. If you know what that channel is it Gildart Jackson is his name, maybe? But I'll have a link to his channel in the show notes. And if those of you who know it, he's just a British actor who sits in his chair by a fireplace and reads a chapter a day from classic works. And I just discovered it recently, but it's been one of the best things I've ever found on the internet. There's no bells or whistles to it. It's just him reading a story. But his voice is so soothing. And the stories he reads, he does it with such perfection. He doesn't overdo it, but it's not a dull reading either. It's just that perfect balance. And you can really imagine what it would be like to have to be in the Victorian age and sit around the family hearth and hear, the latest installment of Dickens read to the family or something like that. He's got several of Dickens' books out there as well. And so he's got all of Wuthering Heights on his channel. So I've been listening to that while I read along in the book. And sometimes both the listening and the reading at the same time really help with my understanding of books. And so, like I said, the second time through, Wuthering Heights has been much, much better than the first time. That I think this book is really going to jump up on my list of favorite Victorian novels. So we'll see how I experience this this time around. But I'm reading about a chapter a day or so. Sometimes two of the chapters shorter. So I haven't made it through very far, but I'm hoping to end it by October 30th and then be able to join in on the Zoom discussion that Kate Howe will have on her channel. So I've been reading Wuthering Heights. I've really enjoyed it. And then this week I've been reading Le Fanu's Uncle Silas. And that one I'm not enjoying as much. And it could be I'm going to need to do a second reread like I am doing with Wuthering Heights once I get through the story. But yeah, I don't know. It's not capturing my attention as much as others have. And I find my mind keeps wandering away from the story, and then I miss what happened, things like that. And I'm still early in the book, so not a lot has happened yet, as Victorian writers tend to like to slow things down. It seems like. So we'll see. We'll see. When I finish it, I'll be sure to leave a review and tell you my final thoughts about it. But now to the main point of the video, my favorite Victorian writers. And I bet most of you could already guess what some of my favorite writers or who some of my favorite writers are. This list is constantly changing, and I was thinking of doing a top 10, but I think I'm going to keep it at a top 5 for right now. I would say coming in at number 5 is Thomas Hardy. And I think the first book of his I read was Far from the Madding Crowd, and I loved it. And I've read a lot. I don't know how many exactly off the top of my head, but 4 or 5 of his other novels. And I'm getting close to being done with reading through his novels. So that's kind of a sad thing because each one I've really enjoyed. I love his description of the scenery. I love his description of dialects, of characters, the situations they get into. Not a lot of happy moments in the books I've read of his. If you like tragic stories, he's your guy. Yeah, I've really enjoyed Thomas Hardy, and I don't have any Thomas Hardy on my Victober TBR list this year, but I have read him in past Victobers. Next, at number 4 would be Anthony Trollope, and the first book of his I read was North and South. Nope, that's Gaskell. The first book of Trollope's that I read was The Warden, which is the first book in his Barsetshire series or whatever it's called. I don't know if I have a favorite of his though, because all of his that I've read have just been really good. I don't know if I have an outstanding one yet. Some of those first couple of books in the Barsetshire series, I don't know, those books, they were all just really wonderful to read. And so I don't know if I would have a specific book that shines above the rest. They're all just, well, they're all bangers, as the kids would say. They're all great, good books. I love how Trollope will often address the reader and, reassure you, hey, don't worry about this character. They're going to be fine. Or this, I don't know. Just the way he addresses the reader is really funny sometimes. So he kind of breaks that fourth wall, which is great. Number 3, and these top 3 are pretty close to each other, but number 3, and she's sometimes number 2, is Elizabeth Gaskell. And the first one of hers I read was North and South. I really want to see the miniseries that Richard Armitage played in North and South. I haven't seen that, but Richard Armitage, I first heard of him as he played Thorin Oakenshield in The Hobbit. And oh my, yeah, no, not that picture. Wait, okay, that's a better picture. All right, where was I? Oh yeah, North and South. Great story, great writing, great description, and it had me hooked to the very end. And I just fell in love with Elizabeth Gaskell's writings. And I've talked about her a lot this year on my channel and on my podcast, so I don't know if I have a whole lot to add to that right now, other than I'm getting close to having read all of her novels, and that's kind of a sad thing. I'll probably wait and read Wives and Daughters, her last novel. I'll probably wait and read that as once I get done with all of her other work. I did something similar with Dickens. I waited to read The Mystery of Edwin Drood as my last novel, because that was his last one. So that's Elizabeth Gaskell. Second, although sometimes she's third, is Anne Bronte. I like the Brontes. I would probably put at least Charlotte Bronte in the top 10. Probably, somewhere between number 6 and 10. But Anne Bronte, I really enjoyed the 2 books she wrote, especially The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. It's just phenomenal, a powerful story that really opened my eyes to the plight of women getting married in the Victorian times, and just how little help they had. And Elizabeth Gaskell writes about some of that as well. But just a tremendous story, a tragic one, but a one that's well worth the read. It's a good story. And I've talked about Anne Bronte in a recent video talking about some of my favorite biographies, so you can check that one out if you want to hear more of my thoughts on her. And then number 1, you might have guessed, is Charles Dickens. No surprise there. If you've ever listened to me talking about books, I usually bring it back to Charles Dickens somehow. I've read all of his novels. I'm working on his short stories right now and some of his nonfiction writing. But it was a very sad day when I had no more Dickens novels to read for the first time. And I just needed someone to hold me. But it's hard to pick a favorite Dickens novel. A Tale of Two Cities really ranks high for me. It's right up there with A Christmas Carol. I read A Christmas Carol every year, and I thought maybe it would be fun to read A Tale of Two Cities every year at Easter time. So that this is like Dickens's Easter Carol, because Tale of Two Cities talks a lot about redemption and a lot about resurrection, and it uses some of that biblical language in the story. And for those of you who have read it, know that really that picture of sacrifice plays very heavily into the story, which is what a lot of people celebrate Easter for. So that, I could read that at Easter, read Christmas Carol at Christmas time, and what a way to celebrate those two holidays. But A Christmas Carol is probably one of my all-time favorite books of ever, if not just a favorite Christmas book. It is a good story. And so that's one of my favorites as well. Others include of Dickens that I like, Great Expectations, David Copperfield. I mean, those two are classics for a reason. They're so good. In fact, I designed a kind of a Great Expectation themed coffee mug that I really enjoy. It's kind of designed as an advertisement. It says, "Enjoy Miss Havisham's Satis House Bed and Breakfast, established 1861. Ask about our bridal suite." You might not want to. For those of you who have read that story, that you get the joke, and it really delights me. If you like that mug, I do have links to my Etsy store in the show notes. Go ahead and check that out. But I mostly design the podcast merch for my own pleasure. I love creating things, and so that's been part of the fun of starting this channel, is expressing my love of art on the computer, which is something I haven't done before, but I've really enjoyed that. Anyway, off topic, but Dickens is my favorite. Do you have a favorite of one of these authors? I would love to hear below what some of your favorite writers are, and what your favorite of their work is. English is hard sometimes. I guess other thoughts on Victober. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope that you are getting lots of reading done. I also want to ask another question. I'm asking all these questions. What has been some of your favorite reads that you didn't expect to read or to enjoy? I bring this up because I think it was a couple years ago, one of the challenges was to read a penny dreadful. So being a fan of Charles Dickens, I had just seen, or that Christmas, I had seen the movie The Man Who Invented Christmas, about Charles Dickens. And in the movie, they talk about this book called Varney the Vampyre. It's kind of as a joke. And so I wondered, is that really a book? And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was an actual book published. It was a penny dreadful. It's a monster-sized book, but I decided to read that for Victober, and really, really enjoyed it. It's a classic penny dreadful. It's very melodramatic. It's very shocking. All the chapters are ending on cliffhangers, and it was just fun. You don't read it expecting highbrow literature, but read it for some shock and scares, and really a genuine interesting mystery and an interesting take on the vampire mythos. So I'd kind of a side note, I'd recommend you read that if that's your thing. Yeah, so those are just some of my rambling Victober thoughts today, and I wanted to share with you some of my favorite Victorian writers and some of their work. So again, let me know what you enjoy reading and who your favorite Victorian writers are, and we'll keep that conversation going in the comments below. So if you haven't, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming Victober videos I have planned. I think I'll be doing a read aloud video here coming up soon, if I have time to record that. So keep an eye out for that. It should be coming sometime later this week or next week. But there's a couple of stories I want to read that I think will be very suitable for the Halloween season. All right, and so until next time, I will share with you a quote from David Copperfield. It says, "I hope that real love and truth are stronger in the end than any evil or misfortune in the world. A sentiment I hope rings true for you today. So until next time, happy reading.